Welcome to Pod Save America. I'm Jon Favreau.
And I'm Melissa Murray from Strict Scrutiny.
I'm Jon Lovett.
I'm Dan Pfeiffer.
We have some fantastic guests with us tonight. Technology reporter Mike Issac from the New York Times is here. We'll also be joined by a couple of Democratic leaders you know pretty well. Your state representative, Buffy Wicks. And your Congresswoman, the legendary Barbara Lee. And we are lucky again to be joined by Melissa Murray of Strict Scrutiny, the best legal podcast on the planet.
And I am so happy to be back in Oakland, back home, and the town. You look good with 4 rings, so yes.
That's a sports reference, just FYI.
Yeah, I know. I picked it up from the video.
All right, let's get to the news. The January 6th committee will hold 2 more hearings this week after some fairly heavy testimony last Thursday that the lead of the New York Times summed up perfectly. Quote, President Donald J. Trump continued pressuring Vice President Mike Pence to go along with the plan to unilaterally overturn his election defeat even after he was told it was illegal. Mr. Trump's pressure campaign led his supporters to storm the Capitol, sending Mr. Pence fleeing for his life as rioters demanded his execution. Not great. So the hearing's 2 witnesses were former Pence lawyer Greg Jacobs, who testified that Trump was told in advance that his attempted coup was illegal. Go figure. And retired federal appeals court judge J. Michael Luttig, an extremely conservative Bush appointee who advised Pence not to go along with the coup, and warned the rest of us in his testimony that, quote, Donald Trump and his allies and supporters are a clear and present danger to American democracy. So, Melissa, the Times had another piece over the weekend that basically argued federal prosecutors may still have a difficult challenge proving that Trump knew his actions were illegal. What do you think about that? And, what would the government have to prove here?
So I think that's right. I think it is going to be difficult because you have to remember that Donald Trump is an inveterate and unrepentant liar. And when you start with that, someone who lies consistently and changes his story repeatedly, when you have to figure out what his state of mind was at any given time, he's just constantly shifting. You can't really be sure that what you think is his state of mind or what you think evidence is pointing to as his state of mind is actually true in that moment. And they actually have to make out a pretty clear case that he not only knew that he had lost the election, but that he knew that the steps that he was taking and the things that he was doing was with the intent to overthrow a legitimately elected president. And if he's constantly changing his story, constantly shifting, I think that's harder. And some of this is coming closer to that, showing that he did know, but he keeps changing his story. Yeah, I told her that I lost to Biden, but then Rudy talked to me and we decided that I hadn't actually lost to Biden. So he's constantly shifting, and I think that's the problem for federal prosecutors trying to make out a criminal case.
Yeah, so there was some news that Alyssa Farah, who is the White House communications director, has told investigators that Donald Trump turned to her and said, "Can you believe I lost to this guy?" right after the results. But I thought that John Eastman, who was the Trump lawyer who came up with the whole Mike Pence can unilaterally decide who the president is scheme, said in front of Donald Trump, I think this is not legal. And so Trump knowing that it's not legal isn't enough, or?
Well, so first of all, let's just say John Eastman is giving all law professors a really bad name. He is the Alan Dershowitz of Jonathan Turley's, which is
so specific for people.
You had a really good LSAT score, and I know you know what I'm talking about.
I did, and I do.
So Eastman says, I'm not sure this is legal, but he also goes forward and says that the law dealing with the Electoral College and the reporting of Electoral College results is, in his view, unconstitutional, and that might give Donald Trump the view that what he is doing is actually permissible because the underlying law is unconstitutional, which creates another wrinkle for the prosecutors.
And also, didn't Eastman also say in one of his many attempts to find a winding path to overturning the election, oh, actually, Congress has been breaking the Electoral College Act this whole time because technically the debate time is breaking the rules in some small way, right? He's been sort of finding paths around this. But one question I had about this is, look, if there's a vault filled with money at a bank, and you have said for months that you believe it's yours, despite there being no evidence you've ever had any claim to it, you're still a bank robber. You still broke into the vault and took the money, even if no one ever heard you admit that deep down you know it isn't yours.
So, yes, I think that is correct.
In case you're getting any ideas.
Like, I'm telling you, this whole prosecutor thing's going to work out for you.
You know, deep down, I believe I would have been an extraordinary lawyer.
I know you would have been. I would have been delighted to teach you. Like, you would have been that guy.
Yeah, we would have had fun.
That guy. In the best way possible. In the best way possible. So, but again, I think we have a DOJ that's proceeding very deliberately, very cautiously. It's headed by a judge, someone who is known for being very deliberate. This would be an unprecedented prosecution of a former president, and I think they want to make sure that every T is crossed, every I is dotted, and they're not going to move forward unless they're absolutely sure. And I think a lot's going to have to come out. Like, is there lots in here for other kinds of suits, like civil suits, for example, which we may talk about with Representative Lee? Surely. But a criminal case where you have to prove things beyond a reasonable doubt, I think that might give them pause.
I want a jury made of people from New York and D.C.
Wow, Oakland. Oakland would hang him in a
I'll take.
Lovett, I thought one of the more damning and ultimately memeable revelations from Thursday's hearing came from an email that John Eastman sent to Rudy Giuliani, which said, "I've decided that I should be on the pardon list if that is still in the works." As someone who's not a lawyer, but a high-achieving LSAT
Sure.
person,
So embarrassing.
does the existence of a coup pardon list seem like that would be a problem for Eastman and Trump?
First of all, Eastman, again, speaking to his skills as a lawyer, seems very comfortable discussing his law-breaking in text. He puts it down in text and tweets. He talks about it all the time. It's pretty damning to be asking for a pardon. Now, they put out this one sentence, and that's damning enough, but actually people have deciphered the blurry text around it. And what comes next is, I know this will taint me, but, which I think is really funny. Yeah, I think he's pretty fucked.
That's your legal
Well,
analysis.
the other thing that's important, right, is that the White House counsel was like, hey, man, you're breaking the law. You should get a criminal defense attorney. This is illegal. What you're discussing is illegal. Stop talking to me about this. It's illegal. And it seems like there were a lot of people on John Eastman's call sheet who were not saying, I love this idea of the vice president for the first time in history singularly in charge of choosing a president. There's a lot of people on the line who are like, no, this is criminal and bananas.
Dan?
Yeah, clearly. He knew he was committing a crime. He asked for a pardon, and that's where we are.
And he didn't get one.
And he did not get one.
And yet here we are. So the Times also reported that, according to his advisors, Trump has been really pissed off watching the hearings because he can't tweet through it.
Do not demean Truth Social like that. Yeah. It's Truth Socialing his ass off.
He's truthing his way through this whole hearing. He's doing
Sadly,
truths and
Truth Social has not
retruths.
been getting the amplification that it deserves. His 12-page rambling statement from last week has not been getting the amplification it deserves. So, after 2 hours of testimony about how he nearly got his own vice president assassinated because he refused to go along with his coup, here's how the 2024 GOP frontrunner responded at an event on Friday.
Mike Pence had a chance to be great. He had a chance to be, frankly, historic. But just like Bill Barr and the rest of these weak people, Mike, and I say it sadly because I like him, but Mike did not have the courage to act. So I said to Mike, if you do this, you can be Thomas Jefferson. And then after it all went down, I looked at him one day and I said, Mike, hate to say this, but you're no Thomas Jefferson.
For those listening at home, We're watching a Newsmax clip, and halfway through, Trump basically describing his entire criminal enterprise. An ad for a gold coin pops up. You can text Trump to 65532.
On qualifying orders, there is a disclaimer. So, Dan, Trump also said in the speech that January 6th was a quote, simple protest that got out of hand. And he promised to pardon the January 6th defendants if he becomes president again. What do you make of him responding to these hearings by doubling down? Good legal strategy, good political strategy? What do you think?
Well, apparently you can get away with anything if you can sincerely believe it's not a crime. So I had no idea. No, look, I very much like this question because in this clip because it backs up my theory that Trump has lost his fastball. Because if you think about the polling on this, which is 70% of Republicans believe some version of the big lie, right? That Biden's an illegitimate president, there was fraud involved, whatever that is. But only 20% of Republicans support what happened on January 6th. Even fewer of that 20% think those people should get a pardon. So there's actually sort of a shift in Trump, which is in 2016 primarily, but also to a certain extent 2020. His campaign was a campaign where he was the person fighting on behalf of other people's grievances. But in 2024, this is a campaign entirely about his grievances.
Yeah.
What happened to him, what people did to him, not what he can do for other people. And it is, I have no idea if it's a good legal strategy or a bad legal strategy. Generally, I imagine admitting to all the crimes you're accused of is bad legal strategy, I assume. But it's a terrible political strategy.
We're going to get a take from Melissa on
Yeah,
this
we'll see.
afterwards.
Melissa, thanks for joining us, Pod Save America. Your job is to defend the wall and Merrick Garland. So,
I'm just spelling out the facts.
yeah, I know. So he has picked the least popular part of a very unpopular issue, and it is, I think, I think he is legitimately vulnerable in an actually contested Republican primary if what he's going to do is focus on defending the violence in 2020. If he's going to promise to give pardons to the people who committed that violence, he's going to make all of the campaign about what happened to him in the past, not what he would do in the future.
There is absolutely an argument to be made for some Republican challenger to Trump in a primary that Donald Trump served this country well, that Republican will say, but he is obsessed with the past and obsessed with this election, and we need to focus on the future, and thank you for your service, but let's put him in the past. And he just keeps going back to 2020 every single chance he gets.
I mean, he's pretty lucky that Merrick Garland's approach to prosecution is similar to Judge Ludwig's approach to finishing a sentence.
I mean, I think the real not that we're out here to give Ron DeSantis free advice on how to install his authoritarian state, but
I'm sure he's listening.
yeah, he's a huge
He's
friend
a
of the
big
pod.
fan.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think the real argument is that Trump's a loser. Couldn't beat Joe Biden, right? You the entire right-wing media.
But
Don't clap for that.
Stop it.
That's not something to clap for.
The problem is they've all conceded the big lie. They all missed their chance, right? Because as you pointed out, most Republicans believe the big lie, and these Republicans have gone along with it. They missed their chance to call him a loser. They had their chance to say, he lost to this guy fair and square. We need somebody that can win. But they haven't been able to do it.
I mean, does that, Melissa, what you just heard from Trump, does that sort of add to his legal jeopardy, or does it not matter at this point?
I mean, every time he opens his mouth, he adds to his legal jeopardy. I mean, the lies, he's lying. I mean, again, I think it really comes back to, can you pin all of this together to show that not only is there conduct, but there is a state of mind to do something with the intent to commit this crime? That's what he intends to do. And I think that is harder. And I am no Merrick Garland apologist, right? I mean, guy needs to get his suits fitted. But
I don't care if he indicts him in a trash bag from Joseph A. Banks.
Do we think the problem is that Merrick Garland is like a Hunt and Peck typist?
I think if you had put Sally Yates at the head of DOJ, I think we would have seen a lot more happening. I mean, he's a judge. That's what judges do. They're deliberate. They're purposefully deliberate.
We need a DOJ that will do to Trump what that bicycle did to Joe Biden. Just take him out at the knees. Oh, we're
Very
not ready to talk
ableist.
about that yet?
Very ableist.
I have, to mix the legal with the political, I have wondered what happens if the DOJ indicts Donald Trump and then Donald Trump gets off, and what that means politically, that like they could not bring the case against him. And then Donald Trump is suddenly running again as like, look
I'm
at
exonerated.
I'm
Yeah.
exonerated.
Hey, you miss you miss all the shots you don't take.
No, I know. I'm just saying. It's
Only
something,
if you're Boston.
Yeah.
it's something to consider. You know,
I would say, I think it is important that everyone here today thanks Jason Tatum, because if he was any good, Game 7 will be happening right now.
So I think one of the most important moments of the hearing on Thursday, or the whole set of hearings, was Ludwig's warning at the end that I mentioned earlier, which is that Trump and his allies remain a clear and present danger to democracy. I just talked to a senior Democratic strategist the other week who spends a lot of time looking at polls and focus groups, and he said, the good news is a lot more people than he thought are paying attention to these hearings, and they're really having an impact on public opinion. But he said the real challenge is so much of it is a focus on Trump and Trump's crimes, and there's not enough focus on all the MAGA Republicans running right now who may try to overturn the next election if it gets close. What do you guys think about that? Like, is there too much focus on Trump and the past in these hearings? Is that just inevitable? Dan, what do you
Can
think?
we just talk about the fact that you just use an anonymous source?
I mean, no one's gonna know who it is. It's just, be a nerd.
All right, Maggie Haberman. Yeah.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah.
It's Ginny Thomas.
Look, I'm a real journalist. It's Ginny Thomas. So she was texting me. I got a few
As
texts that
she
were meant
does.
for Mark Meadows.
As she does.
Yeah, as she does.
I think the way we have to take this forward-looking, and it is sort of unfair to ask the hearings to be the people who carry the weight on this, because their task is to investigate what happened. And they were trying. Like, it took real courage and maybe not great stagecraft to ask Judge Ludwig to answer another question at the end, where it's like, when at the end of that hearing, they've been through everything, the clock's running out, they're like, can you answer this? We're going to ask you a question that could take a normal person 7 minutes to answer.
Yeah.
But I think that falls on all of us to make the case about the danger going forward. And I think the way to make that real is to take it out of 2020 and take it out of Trump and explain to people why this radical, extreme minority in this country is trying to take power and what they're going to do with it. Because there is a way to tie together what happened on January 6th, what the Supreme Court's about to do to Roe v. Wade, why we can't pass common sense gun control in this country, why gas prices keep going up and oil companies keep getting giant tax breaks. All of that is tied to the fact that there's a radical, extreme minority who is power hungry and will do anything to take power in order to put in place their extreme right-wing agenda, book bans, attacking trans kids, all of those things, these deeply unpopular things. And so you have to, I think, a conversation about how democracy, a political theory and system that we've never perfected or really realized in this country is under danger is esoteric, and we have to bring it into real people's lives and why it matters.
Yeah. Love it? No? You agree? Emmanuel?
Yeah, I agree. Ditto.
I thought about this over the weekend because we saw that the Texas Republican platform came out. They have in the platform that not only that Biden's victory in 2020 is illegitimate, they have in there that homosexuality is an abnormal lifestyle choice. They call for the repeal of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 in the GOP platform, and that there should be a 2023 referendum on whether Texas should secede from the Union. So that's now we're clapping for that. That's the Texas Republican platform right now. But I do think the committee is starting to do this too. Adam Kinzinger gave interviews today where he talked about how he and his family were just sent a death threat that someone wanted to kill his wife, and his 5-month-old son.
They're turning on Dan Crenshaw.
Dan Crenshaw attacked by the Pride Boys
There's
the other day. The threat of violence is ongoing and real, and I do think that is. It sort of hangs over the hearings, but I think it needs to be a little bit more explicit.
There's not some rule that only the people on the January 6th committee can talk about
Correct.
the danger here. Every Democrat has a platform to do that.
Yeah.
I think one of the problems with the hearings, and this isn't the problem, I think, solely of the committee, they have a limited role, but making the case that the so what or the now what to the public. Okay, yes, there's a clear and present danger to democracy. Now what do I do about it?
Right.
And connecting that to the midterms, like, the idea that it's not just voting, but like getting everyone who normally sits these out to vote as well, because you're going to need to get all the secretaries of state, because that's part of the plan
100%.
to overturn the 2024 election, and like really showing people like this is what you need to do. And that part's not coming through. I think everyone gets it. Donald Trump is a criminal and he's surrounded by criminals. But so what? Now what?
And you know who understands how critical voting is and running for all these offices is? The other side, because they are running for like Secretary of State, county recorders, all these like
School boards,
right? Republicans are doing that. So, which is a great segue to, again, our pitch always to go to votesaveamerica.com and sign up for Midterm Madness. You can also sign up to be a poll worker with our partner, Power to the Polls. But we really need people to sign up for Midterm Madness. And again, we want to keep MAGA Republicans not just out of Congress and out of governor's mansions, but state legislatures, offices like Attorney General, Secretary of State, County Recorder, all these offices that have something to do with our elections. And it's really, really important that we get involved and that we make sure that doesn't happen. So again, votesaveamerica.com/midterm madness. We'll be back with more news in just a bit. Pod Save America is brought to you by SimpliSafe. We may not be able to control everything that's happening in the world.
That's for sure.
But we can take the steps to protect those closest to us with SimpliSafe Home Security. SimpliSafe's advanced comprehensive home security doesn't just defend against outside threats, it protects from other home hazards too, like fires and floods. Love it. Talk about your experience in 10 seconds.
I had a SimpliSafe come to my house. I took it out of the box. I set it up in a matter of minutes. It was excellent. It works flawlessly. I highly recommend it. It is a legit endorsement. Endorsed.
You did it. You got under the wire. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/crooked. Go today and claim a free indoor security camera plus 20% off with interactive monitoring. Go to simplysafe.com/crooked. Pod Save America is brought to you by Beam. Did you know that poor sleep can cause weight gain, mood issues, poor mental health, and lower productivity?
Yes.
Yes. And that sleeping less than 6 to 7 hours per night is linked to reduced white blood cell count? Not great.
Also bad.
Not a lot of people realize this, but having a consistent nighttime routine is so important. That's why there's Beam Dream. You know we've been raving about Beam's sleep product, Dream Powder, their healthy hot cocoa. Well, today, our listeners get a special discount on a brand new, delicious, new summer flavor. That's two news. That's how new it is. Of Dream Powder, sea salt caramel.
I like sea salt caramel a lot.
A lot.
It's a good flavor.
Sea salt caramel Dream Powder tastes just like the caramel drizzle on your summer ice cream cone.
Tell Joe Biden.
Yeah, he's going to be excited. He could use some sleep. But with only 15 calories, better sleep has never tasted better. It contains natural sleep-promoting premium ingredients, triple lab tested, no THC, and you wake up refreshed. 98% of people surveyed fall asleep faster when taking Beam Dream, and 99% of people experience better sleep quality. All you do is mix Dream into hot water or milk, stir, and then you enjoy before bedtime. How about that? This is great. You drink something that's delicious before bed, that's nice and warm, and it helps you sleep. What more could you possibly want?
That's it. That's all you need.
Nothing.
It's delicious. Trust me. Find out why Forbes and New York Times are all talking about Beam and why it's trusted by the world's top athletes and business professionals. If you don't love it, you can get your money back guaranteed. If you want to try Beam's new sea salt caramel Dream Powder, and why wouldn't you?
I do.
It's only available for a limited time, so be sure to grab some before it runs out at the end of the summer.
Okay.
Get up to 35% off when you go to shopbeam.com/crooked and use code crooked at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/crooked and use code crooked for up to 35% off. Pod Save America is brought to you by Smile Actives. Getting or maintaining whiter teeth is something we all want but don't always have time for. Whether it's painful gels that sting on contact or awkward dental molds or strips that have to be readjusted constantly, it's easy to want to give up. We're going to let you in on a little secret. There's a better way. It's called Smile Actives. They make a teeth whitening gel that can simply be added to your toothpaste every time you brush your teeth. So no change in your routine, no extra time, and people will start commenting on your whiter, brighter smile in just days.
It's true.
Tommy's got a whiter, brighter smile.
I've been using it for a while. I think it's helped, and also I have really sensitive teeth, really, really, really sensitive teeth, and it has not bothered me at all.
Tommy's teeth were so white, Tom Cruise refused to stand next to him in a photo.
Someone asked me to turn my teeth down the other day. That white.
Simply add Smile Active's Power Whitening Gel to your regular toothpaste. It's been formulated with polyclean technology to boost stain removal and deliver active whitening ingredients into your teeth's grooves and crannies to get better whitening. 97% of Smile Active's users in a clinical trial reported up to 6 shades whiter on average, all within 30 days. It's simple. Smile Actives gives you all the results and none of the hassle or high price tags. It's professionally inspired whitening that's safe, simplified, and delivered directly to you. Visit smileactives.com/cricket today to receive our special buy one, get one free offer, plus free shipping and handling. That's smileactives.com/cricket to get that bright smile you deserve. Pod Save America is brought to you by Chili Sleep. Science tells us that the best way to achieve and maintain consistent deep sleep is by lowering core body temperature. Temperature-controlled sleep repairs muscle after a hard day's work and improves cognitive function, so you can always start your day feeling sharp and alert. Chili Sleep makes the coldest and most comfortable sleep systems available. They create the environment that meets the body's natural need for lower core temperatures, promoting deeper restorative sleep. Chili Sleep makes the Uller, Cube, and Dock Pro sleep systems. They're water-based, temperature-controlled mattress toppers that fit over your existing mattress to provide your ideal sleep temperature. These mattress pads keep your bed at the perfect temperature for deep, cold sleep. These sleep systems are designed to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and give you the confidence and energy to power through your day. They also just launched the new Dock Pro sleep system. It's got 2 times more cold power than the other models. It's whisper quiet, has a tubeless mattress pad design that allows for 5 times more cooling contact.
You'll wake up like Robert De Niro didn't trust you in Goodfellas.
You pair it with the new Sleep.me app for enhanced device control and sleep scheduling. I love the Uller. Somehow it was unplugged. And so I was just fell asleep, and I woke up in the middle of the night feeling so hot and bothered that I didn't have the Uller on.
Okay. This story's going a different direction.
No, I was tossing and turning. It was warm, and then I was like, oh, fuck, the Uller's not on.
I just think
Plug that thing in, and I was
unbothered
right
is kind of like
that means something else.
Okay, yeah, I know.
Do you?
This is a product that helps you sleep because it cools you down. That's what you need to know. So you head over to chilisleep.com/cricket to learn more and save 30% off the purchase of any new Cube. Plus, save 10% off the purchase of a Dock Pro. This offer is available exclusively for Pod Save America listeners and only for a limited time. That's Chili, CHILI, sleep.com/cricket to take advantage of our exclusive discounts and wake up refreshed every day.
Now it's time for OK Stop. Here's how it works. We're going to play a video. We're going to say, OK, stop, to bust the video's chops. To set up this clip, Rudy Giuliani has just been asked by a reporter to respond to former White House counsel Eric Hirschman's January 6th testimony that Giuliani himself told Hirschman that Vice President Mike Pence didn't have the authority to block certification of the election results. Let's roll the clip.
Eric Hirschman just testified before the once January 6th committee that you told him that Pence did not have the authority to block certification of the election. Is that true?
I shouldn't really talk about that.
Okay, stop. When Rudy says I shouldn't really talk about that, what he means is ask me again after 5.
If the January 6th committee does nothing more than get Rudy Giuliani to shut up, they've done a national service.
Do you think this shot and this message was on the Andrew Giuliani for governor message calendar? Do you think this was what they were hoping for that day?
Yeah. I want to dress my dad up like Danny DeVito from The Penguin and have him ramble about his crimes for 15 minutes in front of a van. These guys have the stagecraft of like an elementary school where...
That's an insult to elementary school. I'm just glad they're branching out from Four Seasons.
Well, I'm asking you about his testimony.
Well, I'm not going to comment on his testimony. I'm going to tell you that the committee is a witch hunt.
Okay, stop.
Master pivot.
Yeah, it's subtle, the deft touch. Moving on, a specific credible allegation of a breaking of the law to a Newsmax talking point from 3 years ago.
I'm going to tell you that the committee is an extension of Russian collusion. It might as well be Russian collusion, too. How dare those people who accuse the President of the United States of Russian collusion were lying about it. I was telling the truth. The President was telling the truth. You don't think they're lying now? What, how, they changed it all of a sudden? Shifty shift all of a sudden changed?
Okay, stop.
That is my favorite movie, Russian Collusion 2.
Yes. The search for Putin's gold.
Yeah, the search for Putin's gold.
So, I would say you want to look at the January 6th committee.
So are you accusing Eric Hirschman of lying under oath?
I'm not accusing Eric Hirschman of anything. I'm not commenting on Eric Hirschman. I am talking about the committee. And I will not comment on anyone else. I like Andrew. I like Eric Hirschman. He's a colleague. He's a friend.
Okay, stop.
Some of my best friends are Eric Hirschman.
I like Eric Hirschman. He's a colleague and a friend. He has this laugh that lights up a room. I can't stop thinking about him, and I don't hate that. I can't stop thinking about him, and it makes me happy even if nothing happens between us. That's how strong the connection is. That's how good of a colleague and a friend. Maybe it's crazy. Maybe nothing can or would or should ever happen.
Look, I hope he doesn't get murdered mysteriously somehow at any point in time.
On his testimony one way or the other. I shouldn't do that. And they shouldn't be leaking. If they were a legitimate committee interested in anything else but hanging President Trump, they wouldn't be leaking information.
Okay, stop.
The leak happened on national television. During the hearing, that was the leak.
They're leaking the Super Bowl these days. Well, it's really funny, right? Because he's confusing what he said in a deposition that we haven't seen yet, and what Eric Hirschman said on camera on every network, right?
He seems to be accusing the committee of leaking something that he admits to saying under oath, but not realizing, because maybe he doesn't have full control of his faculties at this moment, because it's a day.
He just skipped the hearing, though.
Yeah,
Maybe he was sleeping. I don't know. It was 10 a.m., so.
Rudy has a saying, it's always 10 a.m. somewhere. It's not funny. The man's in crisis. Shame on all of you. The drinking isn't causing the problems. The problems are causing the drinking. Is that the end of the clip?
That was it. And what a way to end it.
And that's okay, stop.
Okay, we're back. And the testosterone dropped precipitously here. Joining us now is someone that you know very well, Oakland. She has been representing the 13th District of California since 1998. She is the highest ranking black woman in the Democratic leadership. Please join me in welcoming Congresswoman Barbara Lee. So first, let me say I love this outfit.
Oh, yes. Go Warriors!
I think we have to get one of these for Merrick Garland. Okay. All right. So thank you so much for being here, because you have had a busy day already.
I have had a very busy day, but let me just say something. First of all, I have to say this. Welcome back home to the most progressive 13th Congressional District in the country, and I want to... Okay? And happy Father's Day, happy Pride Month, happy Caribbean American Heritage Month, happy Juneteenth, and congrats to the Warriors. You know, we have to be joyful in this moment. We don't have a lot of that in our lives, so today is a day to celebrate. So thank you, and I'm glad to be home.
I am so glad to be home too, because I lived in Oakland for 12 years before I moved to New York, and one of the things I miss the most about living in the Bay Area, besides the perfect weather and lack of precipitation, is being represented by you, having you speak for me. So, all right, so you've been all over the country recently, but you were just in Galveston this morning celebrating Juneteenth. And your family is from Galveston, which I don't think I knew. They're from Texas. They have roots in Texas. So what does this tradition of Juneteenth mean to you? And what does it mean to have a federal holiday commemorating this important moment in African American history?
Well, Melissa, I was born and raised in El Paso, Texas. But my grandfather was born in Galveston, Texas, and he helped raise me in El Paso. And my great-grandmother was born in Galveston, enslaved. But I have never been to Galveston until yesterday. And so this, for me, was quite remarkable, because there are many of my ancestors who are buried in Galveston. I've done my genealogy, and I know where they are. And we celebrated, even in El Paso, Juneteenth all of my life. And what it was about is freedom and justice. And the people of Galveston, I mean, it was remarkable to be there because the spirit of our ancestors, the spirit of liberation, the spirit of not only recognizing the past, but moving forward so we can correct and repair the damage of the past, which means reparations, H.R. 40, right? That's what it means.
Speak on it.
And so we have to fight. As today, Juneteenth, what it means to me is, yes, finally, after 10 years, I mean, we've been working on this legislation for 10 years, and Ms. Opal Lee, who I had a chance to meet, who said, let's walk 2.5 miles because it was 2.5 years before enslaved Africans knew that they were free in Galveston. And so I had a chance to meet her, and she's probably 95 years old. And she was there when President Biden signed the legislation. But can you imagine? It took 10 years after introducing the legislation just to get it signed as a national holiday. And so now more people, and the meaning now is more people are beginning to understand the history in this country, the real history of African Americans and the struggles and what took place, but also how resilient we are and how we fought for freedom and how we're going to continue to fight, how we built this country, how we built it on slave labor, and how these institutions, they owe us a debt that has not been paid. So that's what it means.
So Juneteenth is a federal holiday, meaning that federal workers get the day off tomorrow on Monday, but only 18 states have actually passed the necessary legislation to make Juneteenth a state holiday that would allow state workers to have the day off as well. So many of the states that haven't done this have argued that it's too costly to give workers the day off. And then they also say that this is a holiday that no one really knows about anyway. What do you say to that?
Well, first I say our state has to get with the program also, right? The state of California. Secondly, at least here in California, Shirley Weber and the great people of this state passed the commission to study and develop reparations as it relates to African Americans. So California is the first state to do that. So we're leading the rest of the country, and hopefully that'll spur H.R. 40 to help us get that through the House. And so we've got to correct that. And I'm hoping that the state of California and the states that don't have this on the books as a state holiday will do so very quickly.
We have been talking a lot about the January 6th hearings, which I assume you've been following pretty closely as well. I've already been outed as something of a Merrick Garland apologist, which I am not. But let me ask you, do you think the Department of Justice is going to move to indict the former president and those in his inner circle over the events of January 6th?
Well, personally, I hope so. But that's I hope so. And I believe what is taking place now, and you're beginning to see what actually took place, and the truth is coming out about January 6th, that there's no way that the Department of Justice can't hold these individuals and this mob accountable for the attempted coup. Well, this was almost a violent overthrow of our government, of our democracy. And there's no way I think that they can get away with it. Now, let me just tell you, I'm the lead plaintiff in a lawsuit against Donald Trump, the Proud Boys, and the Oath Keepers, which, okay? We're doing this with the NAACP, and let me tell you, the Trump crowd tried to get this lawsuit dismissed. So we had an entire day of hearings, right? And the judge, several months later, said no way. And this was unprecedented that a case such as this involving a prior president would move forward. So now we're in the discovery period. And I'm sharing this because we're dealing with this on a variety of levels to hold them accountable, because this is not over. This democracy is very fragile, and I think what we're seeing now and what you're seeing through the January 6th hearings is that we almost lost it. I was sitting there on the floor right there when this took place, and it was terrifying. But we were determined later to come back and make sure that we made sure that the Electoral College was certified so that the president could be sworn in as President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. So we were determined to do that. But it was very dicey, it was very dangerous, and this committee, the January 6th committee, is showing you, even in a more profound way than I ever thought, that the Republicans, people who were advising this man, were telling him don't do it, that it was almost illegal, that it was wrong.
Almost.
It was. They're telling him that. But, you know, we have to see, and I think the Department of Justice, I wish they'd move a little quicker, much quicker, but.
That is the most generous way to put it.
Yeah, but they're being very methodical, and I'm not defending them, but you see, some have been, charged with treason already and sedition. That's a heavy-duty charge.
Yeah.
And the Department of Justice did that. And so hopefully they're looking at this very carefully so that when they bring these cases forward, that they're going to be substantial and they will hold, and these people will be held accountable for almost destroying our democracy and violently overthrowing our government.
So I love the point that you made. Sorry.
That's what they almost did.
Still trying.
Still trying.
I love the idea that criminal liability isn't the only weapon in the arsenal to hold these individuals accountable. And I love that you are the lead plaintiff in a civil suit. So the law professor in me wants to do a deep dive. Why a civil suit, right? So what could a civil suit do that a criminal prosecution could not, or how could it complement a criminal prosecution in ways that would be helpful for promoting accountability?
Well, a civil suit will also bring forth the culpability of these criminals.
Mm-hmm. And with a lower standard of
standard,
right?
But they would have to pay up big time.
So are you going to bankrupt him?
They'd pay up big time.
Are you going to bankrupt him?
I hope so.
Well,
let's hope so.
What if they offered you the opportunity to settle this suit? Would you say, like, hell no, we're doing this?
I want this suit to move forward to the court. I want people to hear more of what took place on January 6th, and also who these people are, because it's not only the crowd that mobbed and almost destroyed our democracy at the Capitol, but we're talking about people and groups all over the country. We're talking about white supremacists. We're talking about domestic terrorists. We're talking about some very, very scary organizations that are still out there. And so I think the civil suits, criminal suits, the January 6th Commission, every tool we have in our toolbox has to be activated now, because this is a very dangerous moment, but it's a moment that I know will survive and move forward. But everybody here, you all have to help, and you all have to push really hard to make sure that your voices are heard and that everyone understands that we're not going to let this go. Some are saying, oh, that was then, this is now. No. No. We have to keep this in front of the public until justice is done and until we know it will never happen again.
So I read an interview that you did with the 19th where you mentioned that on the morning of January 6th, when you went to work at the Capitol, you decided to put on tennis shoes because you had a bad feeling about what was going to happen that day. You didn't know, but you had a bad feeling. So, one, believe black women. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. What was it like being at the Capitol in your sneakers, knowing that you were running for your life?
Well, first, let me tell you, being black in America requires you to keep your antennas up all of the time. Secondly, I shared with you that my great-grandmother was enslaved. And so my antennas and my DNA tells me that I have to be ready all the time. Now, having said that, there had been many security briefings, many security precautions taken, but I was listening and reading some of these right-wing organizations and these blogs. And I knew, let me just share this. I was sitting in the Capitol on 9/11 and had to evacuate. And we were told a plane might be coming in. I had on heels that day. And it was hard running up Pennsylvania Avenue in heels. So I swore that if I ever had any inclination that something would go down, I wasn't going to wear high heels. And so listening to all of what was being put out there by the MAGA people, I said, no, I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea. But I do have a clue that something's going to go down. So I wore my tennis shoes. And I'm glad I did, because...
So you were reading MAGA blogs?
Yeah, I have to read everything.
I know.
Listening to the press, I kind of have to know what's going on all fronts, you know.
I mean, you're a better man than I.
I mean, not that I just have to know. That's why I wore my tennis shoes.
So
not very few members wore their tennis shoes that day because they didn't.
They learned. They learned.
So it was very scary. A lot of movement in the Capitol. When I saw the Sergeant at Arms take Speaker Pelosi out, when the chaplain came up to the podium to pray, when we were told to get our gas, we have gas masks on, pull out our masks. We may have to put them on, or we may have to hit the floor, one or the other. And so you can imagine what's going on, and I'm looking at my cell phone, people telling me what's happening, and I'm hearing all this noise out there, and I couldn't figure out if my mask was backwards or forwards, so I had to ask somebody. It was Congressman Eric Swalwell and Sherry Boosters. We were all three together on the floor trying to figure out
That's
if
a good
we put our masks on backwards.
That's a good squad for that. That's good.
Yeah, it was good. So, and we had just a few seconds to get out of there. Mm-hmm. And then we went to this undisclosed location. But the other scary part, that was in the height of COVID. And very few Republicans had masks on.
I'm shocked.
And so I'm like freaking out because it's like, oh my God, I'm in this closed area walking like this, and COVID is everywhere. In fact, several members contracted COVID on that day. And so you can imagine what it's like trying to survive, fight for your life on a lot of fronts. But that's what we do, and that's kind of the dangers and the risks that we constantly face. But it's worth the risk because we've got to fight for what is right, fight for this democracy, fight for the people, and make sure that we do the job that you send us there to do.
So, I'm getting a signal that I'm going to wrap up this black girl magic in a minute. But one last question for you. In September, you testified before a House committee on reproductive rights and justice and threats to reproductive justice. And you testified about your own abortion story. And then there were a lot of discussions from experts. I testified there about threats to reproductive justice as well. What I thought was so interesting about this hearing was how many Republicans talked about the idea that abortion is a form of eugenics, and they were so worried about all of these aborted black fetuses. Can you explain to me how your Republican colleagues are working to help black children generally outside of this space?
No, I can't, because they are not. When you look at their voting record, they don't do nothing to help black children. Zero. And so, you know, that, and I'll just share this because I had never talked about this, because it was my personal private decision when I was a teenager between me and my mother, and that was the way it was. And the stigma and all of the issues that so many people have around coming out, talking about issues that are very deeply personal. But after Mississippi and after Texas and after all of these laws started getting passed, I took a deep breath and said, look, you've got to stand up and speak out. And so I did, and told the story of my mother. I was living in California by then, and I got pregnant, and I didn't know what to do. And I went to Catholic school, so you can imagine all of the confusion and emotions that I had. But my mother and I talked about it and made the decision that this was the right thing for me to do. And so my first airplane ride actually was from California back to El Paso. My mother had a friend who recently passed away who said that she worked with her, and she was a wonderful Latina. She said she knew a doctor in Mexico. Now, remind you, abortions were illegal in the United States and in Mexico, and that she would send me to her. First airplane ride cost $200, and it's still so clear in my mind. And she took me over late one night, like 10:30, 11 o'clock. It was a back alley, really dark. Walked in there, and it was a dark clinic, but there were some lights overhead, and the doctor had on a white coat, and the rest is history. But let me tell you, I survived, and I was terrified. So many black women didn't. The main cause of death during that period among black women were septic abortions. So I knew, I was terrified, and I also knew I could be put in jail because it was illegal. And so I didn't know coming back across the border if I was going to be arrested. Still, I don't know about the statute of limitations.
It's Texas. It's Texas.
But I share that because right now I'm so concerned about the criminalization of people who are going to find a way to make sure they have abortion access. And so this is about reproductive justice, reproductive freedom, and it's about making sure that everyone has their democratic rights over their bodies. All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna fight like you will not believe.
So Barbara Lee, thank you for speaking for Oakland. Thank you for speaking for the Bay Area, and thank you for fighting. Please give a warm Pod Save America applause to Barbara Lee.
Pod Save America is brought to you by AG1. What if I told you you could get 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food-sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens in a single scoop of mythical green powder?
I'd say you've told me that so many times.
It's like an unbelievable number of times.
I know, John.
It's mind-boggling.
Stop saying that like it's new.
Not enough times. Let's keep doing it. Okay.
Fantasy can become reality with AG1. We know. Tommy's been on it for, I think, eternity.
I had some this morning.
He had some this morning, and he loves it. Because it doesn't taste like it's super healthy. We would never endorse a shot of wheatgrass on this program. AG1 has this mild tropical taste that you're actually going to look forward to every morning. And when you don't want the jitteriness of coffee, I couldn't even say that word because I'm so jittery because I had too much coffee this morning, you know? I should have had AG1. It says, Favs Tommy, what does your morning routine with AG1 look like? How does it fit into your lifestyle? What do you rely on AG1 for, and what keeps you going back? No Lovett mentioned there.
Yeah, well,
they just figure his morning routine.
They know where their bread is buttered over there at AG1. I like to mix AG1 in when I make a little smoothie, sometimes post-workout. Mm-hmm. You know, a little protein powder, a little banana maybe, some peanut butter, AG1.
I want to. Can you start making me smoothies?
Sure.
The banana, the peanut butter,
the markup
and the
is going to be
it sounds
huge
really good
on these for you.
Okay. Recommended by professional athletes and with over 7,000 five-star reviews, this is high nutritional value in its most convenient format. Health potions and power-ups don't exist in real life, but AG1 feels as close as you can get. It's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills or supplements like your grandma used to take. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/cricket. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/cricket to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Pod Save America is brought to you by Indochino. Whether you're going to be a groom in a wedding party or a lucky guest, everyone wants to look their best for a wedding. With a custom-fitted suit from Indochino, you'll look great, feel confident, and enjoy the big day without fussing over your clothes. Choose every detail on a suit, shirt, dinner jacket, and more at affordable prices that may surprise you for fully custom pieces. Create a suit that fits you and your style perfectly with options for fabrics, lapel shape, custom monograms, statement linings, and more. Indochino suits start from just $429 and shirts from $79. Indochino also offers completely custom fitted shirts, casual wear, and more. Explore their relaxed yet refined approach to spring suits with their new spring pastels.
You can get a peak lapel. You can get a notch lapel. You know?
Get a cool lining.
Cool lining. Get a nice pink lining if you'd like.
Get your initials in there so you don't lose it.
I think I'm in the market for a new suit.
No,
I like the peak lapel. I'm never excited about a notch lapel. I want the peak. I want the cool peak.
The Indochino suit that I wore to Tommy's wedding, which is now how many years old?
2018 was my wedding.
2018. So that's a couple years now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's the one I've been wearing ever since 2018.
I go to it all the time.
And now I know there was a pandemic, so there wasn't a lot of need for suits, but I could use a new suit now.
Well, yeah, my suit was in my closet through the whole pandemic, and it watched my weight go up and then back down so I could fit again.
There you go. So it's perfect. If you've got a big day coming up, getting the perfect look is no big deal with Indochino. Get $50 off any purchase of $399 or more by using promo code CROOKED at Indochino.com. That's $50 off a purchase of $399 or more at INDOCHINO.com, promo code CROOKED. Pod Save America is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. It's amazing the first time you discover something that really made an impact on your life, whether it's a new hobby, a brilliant author, or a really cool city. Love it. You want to share yours? For Tommy, I think it was Korean barbecue.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for me, it's homosexual.
There it is. When that happened, it changed my life forever.
Speaking of recruiting, yeah.
What if the same thing could happen to you with your job?
What is gender? I say on the bus to the St. Louis show.
What if there's an awesome job out there that was made for you? Thanks to ZipRecruiter, that job is easier to find than you think. Like a personal recruiter, ZipRecruiter sends you jobs that are a great match for your skills and experience. They can also help you discover new job opportunities that are the right fit for you. ZipRecruiter pitches your profile to employers for jobs you'll love, and if they really like you, they can invite you to reply. No wonder ZipRecruiter is the #1 rated job site by G2.
They have OnlyFans.
Are you ready to find a new or better job? With ZipRecruiter, that job could be right around the corner. What job will ZipRecruiter help you discover? Find out at ZipRecruiter.com. That's ZipRecruiter.com. All right, it's time for more news. Since we're here in the Bay Area, I thought we would talk about what fresh hell your tech oligarchs have wrought on America. Here to help us do that is New York Times technology correspondent and the author of the best-selling Super Pumped: The Battle for Uber, Mike Issac. There we go. There's a proper hello. Thanks for joining. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
So you just wrote about the latest developments around the richest man in the world buying one of the world's most politically influential social media platforms, unfortunately. So for the first time, Elon Musk spoke directly to Twitter's employees during a 90-minute Q&A that you listened to, where he said, quote, "I want Twitter to contribute to a better, longer-lasting civilization where we better understand the nature of reality." So my first question is, did that line get any laughs? What were your other big takeaways from the call, and do you think Elon Musk wants to close this deal?
First, it reminded me of Joshua Tree last summer, so just like that's kind of no. I think he wanted to close it a few months ago, but like now, so Dan and I were talking about this backstage. He literally bought the company at the height of the market, like the worst possible time, the world's best innovator bought at the worst possible time for $44 billion. And now he's been doing this thing where he's essentially trying to renegotiate the deal in public, basically, by saying, Twitter hasn't given me enough information, there's all these bots on it, and so I think he would have loved to have bought this company a few months ago, but now it looks like kind of a bad deal. And also, there were a lot of Slack jokes about this guy who was casting, by the way, from a hotel room from his phone, very bootleg mode. And so yeah, I think Twitter employees are a little skeptical.
Do you feel like he assuaged their concerns?
Someone, there was a Slack comment that said, if you were to take a shot for every question Elon answered throughout this call, you would be totally sober right now. Which I thought was totally accurate.
Can I ask a question about this? So here's my 30,000-foot view of this, which is that it is not possible for someone who has done what Elon Musk has done to be as stupid as his public persona would seem. It's also not possible for someone to be as smart as Elon Musk thinks Elon Musk is.
Sure.
So the answer is somewhere in between how he presents and what he's actually capable of. In listening to Elon, at any point, have you gotten any sense that he has a more sophisticated grasp of what Twitter is beyond this nonsense of it being some kind of a public square?
Yeah, no, I mean, to be totally fair, I do think he has been, at the right place at the right time in a lot of different moments in history, particularly during the Obama administration and sort of riding Tesla to new highs. And I think he's not a stupid guy. I think a lot of this positioning in public right now is very intentional, especially around the deal. But I think his understanding of policy in general and what he wants to do as far as speech in the public square is super flattened. It's not at all nuanced. It took Twitter's policy teams years to come up with. For example, you can't talk about, you can't be pro-Nazism in Germany, right? That's literally illegal there. So you have to take that off of Twitter. And, he just doesn't really appreciate that. And Twitter is a product used by people all over the world. And I don't know if that's a feature or a bug, that part of me thinks he's I don't care. I just want all of it out there and only the snowflakes are going to be offended. But I really do think he believes that the more speech, the better in that regard.
And you do think that he really wants to close this deal and is not just sort of playing around here for a...
I think he wants to close it at a lower price. I think he really fucked up on the price. The market he paid $44 billion. He signed a contract saying he was going to pay $44 billion. Now he's saying, I didn't know, blah, 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 trying to get out of it. So I do think he wanted it at a certain point, but now I think he's trying to more renegotiate it. So
yeah,
it's like a guy that bought a condo at the peak of the market and is trying to squeeze out of the inspections. It's no matter how rich these people get, it's the same shit negotiations. It's the same just Trump arguing about countertops.
I had a very different midlife crisis than he did, I think.
So apparently one employee asked how Elon's political views will affect the company. He said he's a moderate who voted for Democrats in the past, though in the last few weeks he has also said he's leaning towards Ron DeSantis for president, and that some DeSantis
It's weird.
fans.
Sometimes we get these really pro-DeSantis crowds.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get some applause there. He also said that he voted for Mayra Flores, a Republican congressional candidate who's used QAnon hashtags and urged people to buy more guns just a few days after January 6th, so that's cool. Dan, how much do we all have to care about Elon Musk's political views now? Is it time for everyone to return their Teslas? What's going on?
Don't say that.
That's right. I got to get home from this event.
You see it on Twitter.
Look, I think it's safe to say we all probably care way too much about Elon Musk, full stop. We spend way too much time talking about him.
Talking about this
but
here.
Because you asked the question, I think there are ways in which how we care about it matters a little bit. I think it is not a good thing for the world that the world's richest man, someone who could outspend every penny the Kochs spent over 40 years in politics without really batting an eye, is thinking of supporting Ron DeSantis for president. Like that is a problem. We've seen the damage that Peter Thiel has done in American politics. Donald Trump would not be elected without Peter Thiel. J.D. Vance would not be the nominee in Ohio, and he has fueled some of the most dangerous strains of the Republican Party. And Elon Musk certainly could do a similar thing. He has the pockets to do it, and is like we're watching his radicalization happen before our eyes, and I think that is alarming. In terms of what it means for Twitter, I think we should just presume that these companies, whether it is Elon Musk or someone else, or it's Mark Zuckerberg or someone else, are always going to do the wrong thing. And this idea that the way that we're going to make these platforms work is we're going to have well-meaning billionaire tech moguls in charge of them is like a deeply naive view of the world, because ultimately they're responsive to a market. And so if we're going to want Twitter to do the right thing, if we're going to want to get Facebook to do the right thing, it's going to require rules and regulations that affect their bottom line if they don't do the right thing. Now, because as you know, I am an optimist. I'm a silver linings, glass half full kind of famously. I do concede there is one upside to Elon Musk's new Republican persona. It is not a bad thing for the world that the world's most prominent electric car manufacturer, solar panel distributor, is a Republican. And that, like, there is a, like, I don't want him to have that, but the fact that there is now some Republican out there who actually does not think that electric cars are destroying the world or wind turbines cause cancer or any of those things, that, like, if you wanted to, like, find that silver lining,
which you always are looking for.
Which I'm like, look, I'm known for that. I every day wake up, I try to find the positive, and so that would be the positive.
Dan's watching Star Wars, like, they'll never destroy it. It's not possible. It's too small a hole.
So Elon also said during the call that he wouldn't allow criminal acts to be carried out on the network. Thank you. That's wonderful. He's previously said that under his ownership, Twitter would allow all speech that the First Amendment protects, and that he's, quote, against censorship that goes far beyond the law. Melissa, Mike was just talking about this. Like, is it a good idea to have content moderation policies track the First Amendment?
So this is a great question. I feel like to answer it, we just sort of have to get something out of the way that, like, Twitter and Facebook are not the government. They are private entities, and they aren't governed by the First Amendment.
Right.
So just a PSA from your law professor.
Thank you.
The whole question of whether the policies should track the First Amendment, I think actually opens up the door to a wide range of speech that I think people who use Twitter would find problematic. Like, take, for example, the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, where neo-Nazis were marching through Charlottesville saying things like, you know, you will not replace us, and racist and anti-Semitic things. Charlottesville could not stop them because of the First Amendment. It was protected by the First Amendment. So imagine opening Twitter and, you know, you have all of these Nazi screeds, you have anti-Semitic screeds, you can see beheadings, you can see pornography. All of those things are protected by the First Amendment. And so Twitter is not a public square. It's a social media platform that has a profit motive. And you could imagine that if that kind of content was available, people would leave. They don't want to see it. So I don't know that Twitter wants something like that. I don't know that it would be a good idea for Twitter, just because all of the content would, again, what the First Amendment allows is actually quite vast and probably more alarming than we even recognize. So again, that's sort of the danger of it. And I don't even think the Republicans realize that. They just want to stop the limiting of conservative viewpoints. I don't think they realize it's really a Pandora's box.
Yeah, and every time you listen to Elon give an interview about this, it does not seem like he's thought this out.
No, it's what he'll discover is, oh, I'm not the only smart person in the world. There's some other smart people who have been trying to grapple with these very difficult questions this entire time and landed at these very uncomfortable compromises between the balance of allowing people to say what they will and the fact that humans are broken and fallen.
Yeah.
You know, sort of a core problem. And that buying the world's complaint department may not have been the best use of his fucking time.
He's running a business, and no company wants to put their ad next to the white supremacist screed. Like, that is ultimately becomes the problem.
My Pillow might.
Yeah, My Pillow, right. Well, they have Truth Social covered, right? But I mean, it is like that. They have these content policies not because they care passionately about doing the right thing. You just can't sell Coke ads if your Coke ad might run next to a KKK tweet or whatever it is.
Are you tired of Jews, or are you just tired?
Too soon. Too soon.
Oh my gosh. All right. I do not want to make this segment only about Elon Musk, so we're going to talk about some of the other tech oligarchs out there. Even if you don't care about their politics, unfortunately, they do care about ours. This was a CNET headline from Friday, quote, "Big tech CEOs push Congress to oppose antitrust legislation." The bill in question is called the American Innovation and Online Choice Act. It would prevent tech platforms from giving preferences to their own products and services. On one side are the CEOs of Amazon, Apple, and Google, who hate the bill. They've been at Congress, they've been lobbying, they've spent a lot of money trying to defeat this bill. On the other side are senators ranging from Amy Klobuchar, Cory Booker, and Massey Hirono to Chuck Grassley, Lindsey Graham, and Josh Hawley. Now you don't know what to think. Lovett, who are we supposed to root for here? Lovett's going to decide.
Yeah,
Lovett, is it Josh Hawley? Or is it the Amazon CEO?
Look, here's the thing. Once in a while, Josh Hawley points his fist in the right direction.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
A broken fist is right twice a day. This is a very modest bill. It's going to bounce Amazon Essentials to page 2 of the results, and they're throwing up a fit. I think, first of all, I do think that there's this problem when we say tech, and it includes Apple, Amazon, Google, MetaBook, Twitter. These are extraordinarily different companies. You would not refer, if you had a bill that addressed gun manufacturers and factory farmers and truck makers, you'd be like, wait a second, these are not one thing. So I do think it's more complicated. It requires some nuance, but fundamentally, these are all companies that have very much enjoyed using their bigness to both build platforms and then sell products or push services on their own platforms, and they enjoy the privileges that come from controlling the pipes and pushing stuff through it. They have these concerns. They've lost, I think, the credibility to be listened to. This is an incredibly modest bill that would make some very small changes, and they act like the sky is falling every time. And anytime there's even the hint of a potential regulation, it's we're going to lose to China. You're going to destroy American competitiveness. This isn't about the size of our companies. This is about us. This is about the great Sino-American conflict to come. If you do this, you're going to cut us off at the knees and put us at a disadvantage. We're going to lose the AI fight. We're going to lose every fight. The drones.
The drones.
The drones are coming,
and so who will think of the drones?
I think it is important that we kind of as a society stop taking these kinds of the sky is falling threats seriously. We need Congress to put in place some common sense regulations, yes, against these companies' ability to use their bigness and platform to privilege their own services, but also for privacy is another place where we could make some difference, and also just forget privileging their own products, like Amazon having basically kind of using the data they collect to destroy their own small business retailers that use the service and to replace their goods with their own goods. That is wrong. That shouldn't be allowed. And so, we need Congress to take these reasonable, very small steps forward. We need to kind of empower agencies and give them the funding they need to actually take on antitrust. And then we need to kind of take on the ridiculous ideological right-wing judicial philosophy that has allowed these sort of companies to run amok and face no consequences for anti-competitive practices, and basically kind of made it almost impossible for us to regulate these people because they're enamored of this idea that if it reduces prices for consumers, you can't stop it no matter the harm it does, no matter the consolidation it causes.
The silver lining is that this is the first time Josh Hawley has been for choice.
Which is
significant.
Certainly notable.
Yes.
Certainly notable.
Don't tell the Missourians.
Mike, if this is such a modest change to regulation to the law from this bill, why are they spending so much money and why are tech companies so against it? Is it just they're greedy? Is it that they're worried that it's a slippery slope that will lead to more legislation? What do you think?
First of all, it's funny to hear them say in public, for a very long time, Zuckerberg has said, we want to be regulated,
right.
You know, like this is something that's great for us, and then they spend record amounts each year on more sort of backroom lobbying and pushing back against it.
Yeah, it's like he wants to be punished, but he's very quick to his safe word.
That's
Wow. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Which is no.
Yeah, right. But I think one of the big I'm sorry, it's just never leaving my mind that thought. I think one of the big things though is that they had at least a decade where they didn't really have to worry about changing any of their products, right? Like there was an FTC that really wasn't pursuing, and you could argue like, did they know how influential some of these companies were going to be? Did they know that, let's say, the Instagram acquisition was going to be as giant now in retrospect as we see? And so like, I think now just even the hint of not being able to privilege their own stuff is very scary to them. And like, what they like to stand behind is like, we want to provide the best products, right? And not just something else because it's a different name. But I think consumers haven't had a choice in the first place for a very long time. Yeah. So like, just putting that out there is something new.
Well, Melissa, we have now an executive branch that's for stronger regulation of these tech companies. We now have a bipartisan majority potentially in Congress. What do we know about how the court has looked at these attempts to, regulate tech companies, this court?
So the Supreme Court moves pretty slowly with technology. They only recognized cell phones a few years ago. So that's the first.
And Ginny Thomas led the charge on that.
I knew that's going.
The Ginny Tonic is going to be the refreshing drink of the summer.
There you go.
So there was a case a couple of years ago where Justice Kennedy wrote for the court saying that, social media platforms were kind of like the space for speech. Like this is where people communicated. And then a few years ago, 2018, there was a case called Halleck where Brett Kavanaugh wrote for the majority, but made clear that just because something is a platform, in this case it was a public television station that was actually operated by private entities, the fact that it was a platform didn't turn it into a public space regulable by the First Amendment. So there's sort of uneven precedents here that point in different directions. Just this month, though, there was an interesting shadow docket case dealing with a law out of Texas, which was about content moderation, and the Fifth Circuit had basically not only allowed the law to be in effect while the constitutionality of it was being litigated, they sort of expressed approval of it. This was something that was permissible under the First Amendment. And the court, in a shadow docket decision that was a 5-4 decision, we only know it was a 5-4 decision because there's no signed opinion, but there were 4 noted dissenters. The court stayed or enjoined the law from being in effect while its constitutionality was litigated, suggesting that maybe there's some play here, and they don't think that a law like this, at least while it's being litigated, should go into effect. But the lineup was really strange. So Justice Thomas and Justice Alito dissented, as did Justice Gorsuch, but then they were joined by noted conservative Elena Kagan.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Again, no opinion here, so we don't really know what the court thought about this, but they at least wanted the law to be held, to be enjoined while its constitutionality is being litigated.
Well, it sounds like since both the politics in Congress and the ideological scramble in the court are sort of up for grabs on this, maybe there's room for progress in regulating big tech. I don't know.
Check your text messages from Ginny.
Yeah, that's all right. That's what we'll end up with.
John, end the show as soon as possible.
That's our show for tonight. Thank you to Melissa Murray, Barbara Lee, Buffy Wicks, Mike Isaac. Go to votesaveamerica.com. Thank you, Oakland.